Welcome back to the Chef JKP podcast, and today we have an incredible guest for you. Broadcaster, journalist and judge, Sarah Hedley Hymers. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Right, we've got huge amounts of things to discuss, so I'm really excited. Now, first of all, can you tell us about your experience and how you became, for me, I think, one of the most prominent food and travel journalists in the region?
Well, I always wanted to do something that involved writing and traveling from being a child. I was very much in that mindset, so I've never wanted to do anything else in my life. And I was very lucky. I, straight out of college, got a job in the big glossy magazines in London. So I was working for things like Maxim and Cosmo, but my passion was always food and travel, even back then. And then I got offered a job in Dubai, and from London, the rain and the the recession creeping in, it looked super glamorous. So I came to Dubai and I worked on much smaller titles, but they were very much about food and travel because this region is just so obsessed and immersed in food and travel. So restaurant magazines like Hot 100 Restaurants, Hot 100 Bars were magazines I looked after. Gourmet, which was a recipe magazine, that was on my books as well. So I was editorial director of a lot of titles that were involved in food and travel. And Condé Nast Traveller Middle East is probably the one most people have heard of. But they were quite small regional titles. And I heard that The Telegraph was looking for a destination expert for Dubai. And The Telegraph is global. It's huge. And it's brilliant. And I read it myself as a journalist, was using it as a resource. So, yeah, I took their hand off for that opportunity and was like, yes, I will review all of your hotels and restaurants in Dubai for you for a living. Fabulous. So that was the turning point. And I think from that, like when I was a kid, I had all these Lonely Planet guides. Like they're so like well thumbed from me going through them. I always dreamed of, being a contributor on those. And Lonely Planet got in touch. Can you do our Dubai chapter? DK Eyewitness got in touch. And then the big one, Euronews, which is, one of the biggest news channels in the world. They got in touch and said, can you do our food and travel programming for Dubai? So it's like, oh, wow. So that all, weirdly, that happened from 40 onwards. So I'm 47 now. So that section of career all happened, you think life is over at 40. Well, career-wise, actually, it's been great for me. So that's how it's been the last sort of, especially the last sort of 4 years with The Telegraph and with Euronews, and that experience and working with those teams. They're so professional and amazing. That's really projected me forward because I was kind of stuck in a rut of I was the boss where I was before, and now I'm kind of the baby again. So it's like not in years, but in experience. So yeah, my boss Jane at Euronews is an absolute legend. My boss Rachel on The Telegraph. So I'm working with these like absolute powerhouse women in travel and food, and yeah, learning everything they can teach me.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you were back in the UK, you already had a passion anyway for food and travel and all of this kind of stuff. Now, what I would like to know then is, from all of the traveling that you have done, where would you say are the best countries so far for food specifically?
Well, for me, it's Tokyo. I think that city is just so impressive. I can't pronounce half of the restaurants I find myself in, but every experience in Tokyo is one of those amazing, take 50 photographs of the dishes. I think, food in Tokyo, and also it pertains to the number of Michelin stars. There's a ridiculous amount of Michelin stars there. So Tokyo, I would say, is my favorite. New York, again, same reason. There's just a really high concentration of 3 Michelin star restaurants there, and the quality is just outstanding, world class. Dubai is very good. Obviously, I live here, it's on my doorstep, so I almost take it for granted. But in this part of the world, there's nothing that compares to it. And London, where I left to come to Dubai, London is brilliant for food. So yeah, probably in that order.
Wow.
With London and Dubai, I'd put joint third.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Now, you have previously been a judge for a number of quite high-profile organizations, Condé Nast, for example, NMS Spa Awards. Can you name, again, some of your highlights of being a judge?
I think, the whole thing of being a judge, it started when I was 20 and paid a lot of money for my first meal. And I think the highlight is just eating all the amazing food that I eat and staying in all the amazing hotels that I stay in, because I'm genuinely obsessed with restaurants and hotels, not with cooking. I know that's your area. I hate cooking. I never want to cook a thing in my entire life. I live in a hotel and I try and have all of my food cooked for me. I am into other people's cooking and other people's hotels. That's my passion. So I think you need to have those passions. You need to be doing it as a hobby in order to be able to do it as a judge. You need to be impartial. You need to, when you're food, you can't have food allergies. Like I know a lot of people who've got food allergy. I feel so sorry for chefs when I'm sitting with someone and they go, yeah, we've come to review the restaurant, but we won't eat this and we won't eat this and we won't eat this and we won't eat this. And I think you're in the wrong line of work. So if you're judging things, you have to be open to everything that is going to be presented to you. Otherwise, you can't give a holistic review of a place. And yeah, I think, the highlights are just the experience. But I don't know, for example, you mentioned the LMS Awards. If you have to get massaged 20 times in a month, it actually becomes painful. So people think, oh, that's amazing until you do it. And then it's actually not... It's nice when you do it once a week for pleasure. When you do it on a daily basis and you're critiquing and reviewing, you can't relax, you're not falling asleep or, staying around for the jacuzzi. You're literally making notes in your head, trying to memorize them and then writing everything down. So it's a bit of a different experience as well. So you've really got to be passionate about it.
I think that's fantastic. The other thing that I think I'd like to ask you, now you've touched upon the fact that you're obsessed with food.
Yeah.
So there's always a sort of internal fight, I would say, between chefs, judges, and critics.
Yes.
Because, chefs, of course, they have this ego, who are you to judge my food and all this, that, and the other. However, I think now, one very famous quote that Marco Pierre White said once is about Michelin. He said, how can you let people who have no technical experience or value basically judge your food? Mm-hmm. However, on the other side, for someone like yourself who has gone to so many incredible restaurants, do you now, from your experience professionally, think that you have a lot of technical knowledge when it comes to plates of food? And I'm not talking about cooking. I'm talking about from judging or critiquing a chef.
I've spent all of my, not just a lot, all of my disposable income. Oh, well, actually, other than, the homes that I live in, the hotel that I live in, rent, the basic, but disposable income, I've spent traveling the world and going to restaurants. So I'm not a chef and I can't cook, and I'm very vocal about that. Technical knowledge is not my area of expertise, although technical knowledge, as in I'll know if a chef's explaining that they sous vide something. I know what the processes are. I couldn't replicate them. I'm useless in the kitchen. But what I'm judging on is how a dish comes together, what it tastes like, what the venue is like, what the service is like, what the staff is like. So it's an entire experience. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I'm able to do it and that I feel confident do it, I feel terrible for chefs. There's so many reviews these days. There's so many people. I've started a blog and now I'm a restaurant reviewer. It makes no sense to me at all that this phenomenon in our time has come about. unless the person obviously has, come through it the way that I've come through it. I've been writing about food and travel all of my life, and I've spent all of my disposable income out of my own pocket, not going to restaurant reviews, paying to go to places around the world in order to appreciate the art of cooking. And I think it's really hard on chefs when somebody who isn't very experienced has a view, or when somebody who doesn't like, I don't know, seafood says, oh, well, I didn't like that dish. No, you're not going to. It's a lobster bisque. So I think it's tough, but I think I feel comfortable because I'm prepared to spend my own money on it. I think that's the bottom line.
I think that's absolutely true. And also, it is incredibly hard to keep up with who's a true reviewer that you can sort of say you massively respect, as to someone who's just come out of college and taken a few Instagram shots and said, I do like this spaghetti.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Now, once again, in your view, do you think what makes a very, very good food travel writer, or a judge for that matter?
I think it is. It's the experience, the impartiality, and the no allergies. You have to be open to it. You have to have the experience. I don't think it's something that you can just go into. I think, if you're going to be a restaurant critic, I think you need to have been writing about restaurants, interviewing chefs, writing about that topic for a long time before you make the move from being somebody who writes about a restaurant to somebody who criticizes a restaurant or critiques it. And I think that's the difference where the lines are blurred. So I was discussing this. I have a food group, and I was discussing this with my food group the other day. I think there's a lot of, in Dubai, there is a trend that you will be invited for dinners, and there's an unwritten agreement that come for dinner at my place, use your social space to, promote my place. That isn't a review to me. That is not what you've been invited to do. So for then to say, oh, well, I didn't like it, or if you're going to do that, you need to pay for the meal yourself and review it on your own dollar, and review it completely unbiased, because if the minute you start to get things for nothing, it changes your view. Whether you think it does, it doesn't, it can potentially change your view. So I think that's something that you've got to be really aware of when you're writing about food. Are you writing about it just describing the experience, or are you actually giving a critique? And don't get the two confused. But obviously, I think everybody's a writer these days. So,
Well, yeah, well, I completely agree. I mean, they are everywhere.
Yes.
These writers, these bloggers, but again, from a professional chef's point of view, within Dubai and certainly within the UK, there's only a few that you really trust, because they are putting down their own hard-earned money, and it's not a sponsored post, or they're being invited in this sort of thing. So it's quite interesting, actually, I think.
So how do you? Can I turn the tables and ask you a question?
Yes.
Sorry, journalist. How do you cope if you ever get criticised from someone and you're not aware of their background or why they've got the authority to do this? How do you deal with it as a chef?
I think the times of kicking critics or people who don't like you out of your restaurant, I think those times have gone.
Okay.
And I think it depends also on the personality of the person. But for me, critiquing can be a two-way streak. You can either learn from it, or you can take it defensively and be like, no. So I'm not that kind of person. I like to, if the critique or the critiquing or the criticism or whatever you like to call it is just, and you listen to it, I think, okay, I take your point on board, no problem, I understand. If it's someone who is random off the street, who is just trying to, impress their girlfriend or get a free meal, different story altogether. I'm not in Europe, so obviously I'm not going to do what you'd normally do in the UK and be like, right, sling your hook, get out. No, but you can't do that here. You need to be, okay, thank you very much for your opinion. I will look into it. Thank you very much. And then that's what I would do. But a lot of people take it mega, mega personally. I think it's about understanding professionalism. Yeah. And whether, but again, you know yourself also, if it's a personal attack or not.
Yeah. And also here we do, to give credit to people who do blog, we have some amazing bloggers here. We've got Eat Go See, A to Z.
Absolutely.
We've got Zoe from The Luxologist. So there are people whose reviews will influence me and make me go, as a journalist or a judge working on the other side, go, oh, I haven't been to that place yet, and that will spike my interest. So there are people who I follow. So I don't think social media is all bad for the industry. I think it can be a very positive thing. You've just got to know who to follow, because I think there's just a dearth of people who are, just doing it sort of not for the right reasons. So if you know who to follow, it can be a very healthy and positive experience.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, actually. Now, you yourself being an avid traveller, or before the pandemic and all of this kind of stuff. Now, in your opinion, do you think that travel will go back to pre-COVID times, or do you think people would like to explore more hotels and restaurants locally even more so?
It's a good question. If I had that crystal ball, I could invest and make some good money. Look, I'm a travel and food specialist, so I live in the hope that the hunger for travel and a change of scene will create some kind of boom in the travel industry. I think restaurants who have been quite clever about it, particularly in Dubai, where the management of the city has been so amazing from DTCM. We're so lucky to live here and still be allowed out and, in a controlled but safe environment. I think some restaurants have done well regardless locally. And in this region, hotels like Ras Al Khaimah, Al Wadi, I've been there for a staycation, and they have been busy. Getting a room there is hard. Al Mahar, so places that are out, a bit remote, there's a real hunger for that already. So those staycations, they are already happening. And some restaurants have actually done quite well. Some have launched in COVID and still done quite well. Your place is, smashing. So there's no... We're not sort of down and out yet, and I think that there will be a gradual increase when our markets open. In Dubai, for example, the UK is one of our big markets. I think they're opening in June, and I know that market, once it can come to Dubai, will be coming to Dubai. And I've already travelled. James, I just got back from 2 weeks in the Maldives.
I know.
So, so the minute I was like, right, I'm vaccinated, bye. And that's another great thing about Dubai. We're vaccinated already, so it's... and it was nice to travel. People were like, oh, did you feel bad on the seaplane? No, because every single person on that seaplane had to have a COVID test in order to get on the seaplane. So it's the first time I've been in a space with other people where I knew every single person was tested within the last 72 hours.
Wow.
So how safe, you feel safe because you know that you're surrounded by people who are tested. And negative. You can't travel without your negative test. And as long as they keep that in place, I think it'll be fine. It's a shame that it's a little bit expensive. It was not from Dubai, from the Maldives, it was $135 per person. So it adds a little to your journey. And I'm sure, when everybody starts traveling again, they're going to have to just account for that extra cost. But I think the hunger, and believe me, the first 5 days, I was like, I was so excited. I was like, I am not in the same place that I've been in for a year. So it was remarkable and so good for the soul, so good for your well-being. Travel is important. It's enriching. It's reviving. It's not just a luxury like a handbag. It's actually very good for us, I believe. So I'm hoping that there'll be a boom. Let's see.
I think there will be. I think 100% there will be. And it's just how those businesses react, and how the travel industry is also going to react. And obviously, the aircraft industry, who's also got smashed through this, unfortunately.
Yeah, they've lost so much money. And then if they put the prices up too high, that's going to impact whether people can even afford to go because everybody's salaries, furloughs and percentage cuts. So the overseas travel will very much depend on that dynamic of flight costs, and we will have to wait and see how that is. I saw when I was in the Maldives that Emirates are doing deals on the Maldives, so it's like, okay, if we keep on having these deals, we'll revive areas, because it's important that travel is revived. A lot of people think of it from their own point of view of traveling, but we've got to think about as a country, or globally even, is that travel and hospitality supports a huge cross-section of population. So look, if you look in Dubai, look at all of the people from, not just, me, you from the UK, and are you from South Africa?
South America.
South America. So, you've got in the hotels and the restaurants, you have Filipino staff, Indian staff,
Yeah.
you've got staff from all over the world. Those staff are often sending money home, as am I, to my family to help support family. So you've got, families in Manila are relying on this industry coming back, families in India. So it's families all over the world, and whether they do laundry for hotels or supply something that goes into a hotel, people are thinking of it as about restaurants, hotels, and airlines, but there's an entire infrastructure that goes into travel and hospitality, and we have to support that by booking our holidays and enjoying ourselves. Simple.
So please, let's book the next one as soon as possible. So, talking of food, talking of travel, I'm going to ask you what I like to call, as this segment is called the Ratatouille Moment.
Okay.
So imagine the food critic in Ratatouille when he opens his eyes and he understands like the Ratatouille is everything he ever had as a child, and then he, the main character won him over. Can you please tell me two things? Number one, your favorite ever food memory.
Okay.
Number two, your meal of a lifetime, and why?
Oh, that's tough. Favorite ever food memory and meal of a lifetime. Well, they could be the same thing, because what started me on this journey in my early 20s was I went to the Fat Duck, Heston Blumenthal's first ever restaurant, when he was number one in the world. And it made me cry. There was like headphones that we got with a seafood course, and the seafood course was done like, it looked like a sort of British beach with gravelly sand and foam and my favourite shellfish. And this is the sort of things I would eat as a kid, because I'm from the north of England, coastal town. We'd have shellfish from the coast. And they put this music on and they say, look, close your eyes to the next course. So you've got this atmospheric music, and then you taste this food. And honestly, it's so emotional. And every course was like that all the way through. I think there was 14 courses, and I had never eaten food like this in my life. This was my first experience, and I was living in London. It was out of London, so we had to get a B&B next to the Fat Duck. And when we woke up in the morning, we had breakfast with everybody, and they were all there to go to the Fat Duck. And they were millionaires. They were people from Japan who had flown from Japan just to go to the Fat Duck. So we kind of all sat down, told our story. It was like a sort of confession group. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm here because... and I was overwhelmed by this food cult that was going on around the world based on the world's 50 best and the Michelin 3-star list. So these people were collecting these experiences. And then I had the experience, and then I knew why. It blew my mind. And from that point, I have been trying to go to every single one of the Hot 100, the 50 world's best, but there's actually 100. And I've been trying to go to every 3 Michelin star restaurant, of which there's about 103. But it's like a game of snakes and ladders. So every year I'll go a little bit further, but then some will lose their stars or get taken off the list. So
oh my God.
So it's like, it's expensive.
Wow.
And it drives me mad, but I will literally travel to the ends of the earth to do this. And this is before I die. I will have eaten definitely at all 50 of the world's 50 best, and hopefully at all of the world's 3 Michelin star restaurants.
Wow. So the village is Bray.
Yes.
And in Bray, there are 2 3-star Michelin restaurants.
Yes.
And that particular course is called The Sound of the Sea.
Yes.
It is a technical, from a chef's point of view, it is a horribly technical thing to make. You're looking at probably 24 hours worth of prep.
Wow.
Just for that course.
Yeah.
But Heston Blumenthal, and when he, the Fat Duck is an institution.
It is.
It will always will be, and it's one of the most amazing places. And also, he was one of the reasons also why I became obsessed with Michelin. I think when I first came to the Middle East, there was a caterers forum or something. There's always these forums that you go to. And one of the questions that I would always ask is, when is Michelin coming to the Middle East? You know, and it's year on year, you keep hoping. You know, Michael Ellis came, and you know, so we're just waiting for the guide to eventually come here, because I think it will come here. There are some incredible restaurants. It's just about setting those standards from a service point of view, experience point of view, and of course the food point of view.
Yeah, I think we're there on the food point of view. I think we've got the chefs. I think we need to work on the service. I think we don't understand the value of having, you know, if you're in a Greek restaurant, having a Greek waiter explain, this is my mother's recipe, this is how we put and I really appreciate that level of, if I ask a question, I'd like a really detailed answer. Like service where every single dish, the waiters have tried every single dish and they know exactly what's on the menu and they care about it, they're passionate about it. And you will get that in countries, particularly countries like Italy, where being a waiter is seen as a proper career. And it is, you know, it's well paid, it's a really professional service. And you go there and you ask a question and you get beautiful, elaborate answers, and your mouth is watering before you've even ordered, and then you order that and that and that because you can't decide between the three. That level of service is what we need to be directing ourselves towards. Now,
I'm going to ask you 2 more questions from this. Number 1, considering that you're based in Dubai, we know that there's roughly between 12 to 10,000 restaurants here.
Wow, didn't realize there was that.
Do you feel that there's a lot of copy paste when it comes to restaurants here?
We tend to go very trend-based. So if a Peruvian restaurant opens, there's a chance that 20 Peruvian restaurants will then open straight after. If a Japanese restaurant, then, you know, we have that, but we don't have, now we do actually, but Uzbekistani cuisine or, you know, just different types of cuisine was less prevalent. I think that's actually changing. So I think we're very trend-based. But yeah, I don't know if, to me, I think we do have diversity though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, diversity is there. It's just there seems to be, everyone needs to go to this one place for 5-6 months and then they forget about it and then they go to the next and the next and the next. And it just seems to be, you know, you have, for example, Greek restaurants within 50 meters of each other, but there's 7 of them.
Yes. Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense at times.
And it's the novelty bias I find in Dubai. So we have so many options and so many new places opening and people want to go to the new place. So not almost by default, we don't develop the sort of repeat custom.
Right.
And I think that the service would change that. I think if people were getting service where, oh, hi, Sarah, nice to see you again. How's you? How's your husband? If you were getting that kind of service, I think you would go back. Whereas the service seems to be across the board kind of the same in all Dubai restaurants. There are a few specialities. VIP at Tresinde is amazing. So he will, when I arrived there, hi, Sarah, how are you? But then I go back there. So what started first? His amazing service or me returning and returning and I'm not sure. So it's you know, it's the whole package there, the food and so on. So yeah, I think we need to develop a loyalty, and that's maybe going to be tied in with the service improving.
Well, that's my next point is, so once again, when I first came to the Middle East, I worked with a front of house guy. He's still one of my best friends. So his name is Halil Azar. And he was the youngest 3-star Michelin maitre d' in Europe.
Wow.
When he came, he had an amazing career and then decided he had enough of Europe and then had the opportunity to come here. Now, he was ingraining into everybody about the steps of service, obviously, and how important service is far more than the food. Because that's what keeps everybody coming back. And more often than not, the more I talk to people, they say, okay, yeah, food is great or whatever, but service was lacking. Or the opposite. We come back because of the service and that maitre d' or that manager knows us personally.
Yeah.
And why we're not doing more training on this is beyond me, because you're right.
Your friend should set up a school.
I'll get him to do it at some point.
Set up a school.
Because he's amazing. Because not only is he he's also a full-on trained sommelier. So he was the full package. It was amazing. Now, from all of your experiences worldwide, what would you say has been the funniest thing or incident that has ever happened to you?
I think in Korea, we found a restaurant we're always quite happy to explore, and we found a restaurant in Korea called Dong, and it's a poop-themed restaurant. So poop emojis, you know, like how you have on your phone? Poop emojis. All the food served in toilet bowls.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Like plate-shaped toilet bowl. But it was just, and it's packed so full. Like, people love it, and it's amazing what a theme could do for a restaurant. The food is like bang, average, mediocre. There's nothing wrong or right with it, but the whole theme is just, you know, so you've got these big cushions in the emoji shape, the menus in the emoji shape, the scones are shaped like the emoji, so it's like the whole it's very strange, and even the coffees come in little toilets, so you've got like a little toilet shaped coffee cup, and coffee's actually very good, and the and all the food comes in like bedpans. Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
Yeah, and we had another good. Well, it was more sort of comedy of errors. But when we were in Kyoto, we did a kimono dinner, which the Ritz-Carlton do it. It's absolutely spectacular. But they dress you up in kimonos. But we're greedy, right? And kimonos have got these like big belts around the middle. So me and my husband Paul were in our kimonos, strapped in.
And they're tight?
Yeah, very tight. Like, so, but we also discovered that evening shabu shabu, which is this like beef soup stuff. It's amazing. So we couldn't stop eating. So we were like, oh no. And we couldn't, and neither of us could, like, you know, we have elasticated belts. We genuinely travel everywhere with elasticated belts. And we couldn't undo. So we were just like, and then by the end of it, yeah, we had to like, they dress you in a special dressing room, and then after your dinner, you go and like they take it all off again for you. So yeah, we couldn't. So we were like, oh, it was very it was very difficult to stop eating, even though we wanted to continue. But yeah, we didn't burst the outfits.
Okay, well, good.
Which I'm pleased about.
Yeah.
And we got some good photos out of it.
What would you say now? Once again, a tricky question, because I think this everybody always struggles with this. Either your top 3 culinary giants or journalist giants, and why? Oh,
okay. Well, Heston is number 1 because he started this for me. He was my inspiration. Like he, you know, has been for you. He's such an icon, especially as a British person. He like changed British cuisine for me. Like really had a lot of impact on my life. I'm not sure what I would be doing if I hadn't gone to the Fat Duck that evening. I don't know what my hobbies and interests would have been. It would have been a different life, possibly. I'm a huge fan of Himanshu Saini, Indian chef here at Tresinde, and I've been following his career from the beginning, and I love the founder of Tresinde. I love the story behind it. I did a review on that restaurant in a magazine I worked on a long time ago, and the owner was so pleased with the review. He wrote me this amazing letter telling me his story about how, you know, he does it all for his father. The whole concept of the restaurant, he just wanted to make his dad proud. And I think that's always really interesting. The motivation, when it isn't money, the outcome always tends to be better, right? Like if it's passion, if it's something other than money, when it's money, it can be a hollow prospect. So Himanshu is, you know, I've been watching his career. Apparently, he really wants to have a little kebab shop next to Manchester United Football Club.
Oh, does he?
Because that's...
I've got a funny story about him. Me and him went to Moscow together, but I'll talk about that in another podcast.
Another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's somebody who I have the utmost respect for. His food, yourself, Reef. There are good chefs in Dubai, and in Tokyo, I wrote his name down, Noriyuki Hamada, and he is a chef at the Hoshinoya Tokyo, which is Tokyo's sort of traditional style. It's only traditional style hotel, which has all the tatami mats on the floors, low beds, and an onsen on the ceiling. It's a very interesting building because it's a high-rise. It's a skyscraper right in the middle of Tokyo in the finance district. And from the earth, they found a hot spring and pumped hot water up to their onsen, their hot bath, on the ceiling. There's men's and women's, and the ceiling is open, so you float, and you're not allowed to wear any clothes in these things. It's the most surreal experience. You go in, and you're floating on the top of a skyscraper in Tokyo at like 3 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time, it's open 24/7. So when we arrived, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and that was one of the most bizarre travel experiences I've ever had. But I loved it. It was just so different, so unique, and I recommend anybody stay in the Hoshinoya, Tokyo. Now, I've stayed in a lot of the hotels there, but that is just something that you can't find anywhere else in the world. And the chef there, oh wow, it's amazing. He has the basement of the hotel. So you've got this onsen on the roof, and then in the basement, in this very dark and atmospheric restaurant with very minimal furniture, this chef is doing the most spectacular things, a bit like Himanshu. It's French techniques, but with Japanese food, as Himanshu is, French techniques with Indian food. And served on twisted branches and pieces of bark and stone. And the whole experience was amazing. And then the food was just, to me, if I was doing the Michelin, it would be 3 stars. If I was doing the world's 50 best, it would be in the top 10, not just in the top. It's on there now. It's in the discovery list. But to me, I've been to, I think it's 48 of the 100, and it's in the top 10, in my personal opinion.
Wow.
So yeah, those 3 would probably be they're my inspos.
So for anyone who wants to do the same as what you're doing, becoming a food traveler or a traveler journalist or a foodie, reviewing and all these kinds of things, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
Oh, my advice would be to do photography because the day rate is much, much better. It's don't do it for the money, and Paul and I chose not to have children, so we have the disposable income in order to be able to do this. I don't think if we decided to go down the route of having a family, it would have been possible or feasible financially or physically, because you have to be, you're on the road. We're on the road a lot. He works in hotels as well, so it suits us both. But yeah, I think it's, don't do it for the money, because you will spend more than you will make. And if you want to see the world and see amazing food and restaurants and hotels, photography is probably a much better thing to do, because you get to do the same thing, but with the day rate is at least 3 times as high.
Wow. Okay.
And videography, again, I think it's the times that we're living in. We're very visual. Attention span is short. There's very few long form articles, and writing is it's never going to go out of fashion, but it's just not as well paid, because there are so many people who are writing on platforms now, free platforms, blogs, ebooks, etc. So the market is flooded with words, but because anybody can jot down words on a page, and it's hard to find which are good, which are bad. Whereas with photography and videography, there's a bigger outlay. You have to pay for the kit, and that puts pretenders off. Yeah. But if you're serious and pay for that kit, and then, do the photography or the videography side of my work, because they get paid more and they do exactly the same thing, other than, I'm writing it down and they're editing it on video.
So, question for you. Mm-hmm. Because I know that you're an avid reader as well.
Yes.
So, do you feel, moving forward in the future, that books and newspapers will still very much stay alive in their sort of original form, or do you think it's going to be more people reading on their laptops or phones or Kindles?
Well, it's already happened. I mean, most news is consumed on a mobile phone now. So the move away from actual print products, I say I read, but a lot of my books I consume on Audible because I do TV and because I do podcasts. I really appreciate listening to the skills of people who read audiobooks, who present, who do podcasts like yourself. So, I think the shift has already happened, and I think in media you need to be able to do visual media, video and audio. Print will never go away. Books will never go away. I read a lovely book while I was on holiday, and it was, paper, it was lovely to go back to that. So I think that will always exist. And my travel books, my Lonely Planets, still got them all. I will not part with them, and I much prefer to have that than even I've got a Kindle as well. And I've tried getting travel books on my Kindle, but what's so lovely about my Lonely Planet set is that I'll go into like Thailand, and obviously, the first time I bought that book, I was backpacking around Thailand, and I put notes. I'm not one of these people like don't soil a book. I'm like, no, interact with the book, write notes, stick bits of put phone numbers in there, pictures from people who you've met.
Nice.
Like my books are covered in my scribbles, and when I look back at those, they're useful anyway because I'll say, I didn't like this restaurant, for example. So it's practical information, but there'll also be bits of what my favorite dish was. So for travel guides, I think print. But for books, for me, Kindle and audio are the most commonly consumed. And then for news, the internet.
Okay.
I would never... Newspapers annoy me. I like the Sunday newspapers back home in the UK.
The thick ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sunday newspapers, all the supplements, because it's Sunday and you can lay everything out. But even when I was working on newspapers in the UK, I hated trying to be on the tube with a newspaper. So I think newspapers, less so. Magazines, less so. But print will exist in luxury titles and travel titles for sure.
Yeah. For me, there's only two things I collect. So knives.
Sinister, if you're not a chef.
Yeah. and books.
Yeah.
Because I love books.
Which kind? Cookery books or?
So cookery books, and then books about coaching with different types of team. Because, weird thing. So I see coaching or leading a large brigade of chefs as leading a team, like a football coach. So how to get the very best out of people and all of that kind of stuff. Because, again, the one thing that chefs don't really tend to understand is that their team is everything. And it doesn't matter whether you've got 3 or whether you've got 100, you need to understand every single chef and how they're going to learn to get the very best out of them. So I'm all about how do you get better and all of this kind of stuff. So that's what I'm into. Yeah.
I have a few myself as well, coaching books. Anything that you need to write notes in or highlight? I know you can highlight on the Kindle, but it's not
the same.
It's not the same.
You have to feel the book. I think it is important.
Turn the corners down, know that you're going to go back to that. So I think any sort of practical guides, it doesn't work. But in ebooks and Audible. But I write print books. I've just got a book out, DK Eyewitness, Unforgettable Journeys. Nice. Please buy it. And I wrote the chapter on Abu Dhabi, the Jebel Hafit Drive. And my Lonely Planet book, which I finally got to write, is Secret City.
Wow.
Which is all about the hidden gems around the world. And I wrote the chapter on Dubai.
Amazing.
So, obviously those kind of books, you need those physically in hand, I think.
So I'm going to recap everything that we just discussed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so from how you became a journalist to then that very first experience that you had, your passion for all things food and travel, the number of different organizations you'd been judging, but again, that was because through your pure love of all of this. Some of the highlights. What makes a good judge, I think, is absolutely fantastic. And, if you're willing to part with your own money and take it seriously, I think that's very, very true. whether people are going to go back to more travel or they're going to stay within their local means. I love your food memory. I think it's incredible. And yeah, I agree with you. Heston is an absolute legend.
Coming to Dubai soon as well.
Yeah.
Manchester Royal.
Finally. The funniest experience is really good. This Korean restaurant.
Would you go to the Dong?
I would, just to check it out. So I've already got an idea for an investors. So ready to go here in Dubai, coming soon. Thank you very much. Your top three giants, I think, also fantastic. And yes, I agree. Himanshu is he's fantastic, really talented, gifted chef.
And very humble.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows how good he is, which is good.
Yeah. But I think that's also an amazing trait to have. Not to be arrogant.
Yeah.
No need. The advice, of course. So, if we want to see all of your work, or if people want to email you, how can they do that?
My website is hedleyhymers.com. HEDLEYHYMERS. So hedleyhymers.com. That's also my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok. Everything is Hedley Hymers. And my email is info@hedleyhymers.com. So very easy, all under one name, my middle name and my surname, Hedley Hymers.
Done deal. And I'll make sure to put all of that into the show notes.
Thank you.
Sarah, it's been absolutely amazing to have you here. Really, thank you so much for taking the time, because I know you're super duper busy, and it's been absolutely delightful to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.